Welcome to the podcast. As today we're going to be answering the question, should you go to college? It's a very interesting question nowadays as the perception of college is decreasing, enrollment's decreasing, and just the general outtake of putting yourself in debt to potentially get a career has completely shifted in this new age of student and young individuals. So stay tuned as we are going to dive into that very interesting discussion and look forward to things like this.
If you are not 100% in on like YouTube or Twitch, right, then you should not be making it your full-time thing. That just doesn't make sense. Because again, it just comes down to like you gotta pay bills. So if you got bills to pay, or you're living with mom and dad and you're not figuring out how you can go get an apartment, like if you're making YouTube your thing, then that's great. But if you don't even know, like it's not the best use of your time.
With that said, I hope you guys enjoy. Rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Like the video on YouTube and enjoy the podcast. Let's just say that we're all right. So basically, we're going to say this is the beginning. We're going to just kind of make it kind of genuine. The official recording is something I did separate anyway. So today's my guest here is my guy here, ShonenOuji. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
What is going on, everyone? My name is ShonenOuji. I am an anime YouTuber. I focus mainly on shonen, battle shonen, anime, and manga. My big ones are One Piece, Dr. Stone, and Eden Zero. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, I'll be referring to him as OG throughout the podcast, and his information, as always, will be with on the website and in the description when it's posted on these different platforms and YouTube and all that good stuff. So, OG, how's it been? How's life been treating you?
I'm doing good, man. Just continuing with the YouTube grind. Aside from that, been playing a lot of Overwatch 2 now that it just came out.
Okay, I heard from some people that they're kind of pissed off on how Overwatch 2 is doing things right now. Do you agree with that, or do you agree with that sentiment, I guess?
So I will say, in my personal experience, it was a very, I wouldn't say disappointing, but very chaotic launch. But in terms of my enjoyment of the state of Overwatch right now, it's kind of crummy how transparent their goal is with the battle pass they've implemented. Like the
Gotcha.
skins that you get for free are like kind of stupid. So it's very much like if you want cool stuff, you have to pay money.
Is it true that the only way you can get it for free is if you had Overwatch 1?
So there is certain stuff that carries over if you have Overwatch 1, but aside from that, the big thing is the battle pass. So if you didn't play Overwatch 1 at all, then I believe the way it works is you have to do challenges to unlock the original heroes. But assuming you get those after that point, the Overwatch 2 characters, so they dropped 3. One of them is included with the battle pass. And so to answer your question, I believe the battle pass character you get for free if you had Overwatch 1. If you didn't, then you either have to unlock them or pay for them.
Understood. Fair enough. Very interesting situation Overwatch is in as of right now, but it still has its fan base, so still gonna play the game, of course. But yeah, we're gonna dive into today's episode of the podcast. As always, I always ask everybody to think of a time that you had a conversation, debate, discussion with someone, and you vehemently disagreed with every point they were making and everything they were saying. And think of that situation, and then later on in the podcast, you're going to answer how that went, kind of revisit if you could have done things differently, and how everything kind of reconciled. All right?
All right, sounds good.
Excellent. So, as you guys know, we're going to be talking about college and whether or not you should go to college. So, one thing that we always start off with is some relevant news for everybody. This is relatively relevant. I mean, this is in the last couple months for both these pieces of news. So, in regards to the first thing, is that they were talking about, free college and here and there. Now, there has been some pushback on whether or not they're going to. Make like community college across the board free. There's been pushback for that, but at the very least, they're talking about how they're just going to make more. They're going to make more and more colleges free. There's new like scholarship programs. For example, in New Mexico, they release a program to kind of pay for everything for like immigrants and people who are going back to college, for example. And then obviously with the current situation with student debt and how Biden potentially might get rid of it. Who knows? We'll see. But at the very least, there has been talk about increasing the Pell Grant money, lowering, certain tuition, and kind of making everything a little bit more beneficial for students moving forward. So, have you heard of that news? And if you have, what do you think about, the situation as of right now?
Not any of that news specifically, but I have been hearing for a while now that they want to forgive student loans, and a lot of politicians are like, "Oh, we should make college free." In theory, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I think the immediate concern right now is timing, right? Because whether you want to say it or not, we, the United States, are currently in a recession. So if we suddenly forgave student loans, right? Like, let's say President Biden did it tomorrow. Well, that's going to affect the economy in a big way. And like, we're definitely not doing great in this recession right now, but we're not like starving either. So
Right,
if we just like throw fuel to the flame, I mean, there's no saying like how bad that'll like how much that'll make things worse. But again, that's if like we were immediately to do it. In
right,
general, I mean, I don't know. I would have to like see the exact proposal. I also see the other side of like, well, now people have to pay taxes. Because I mean, it does work in other countries. I know in some European countries, like they just pay higher taxes and like can go
right.
to whatever school for free. But I don't know.
I do think there's definitely a point there. And one thing, obviously, that should always take into account is they're going to the extreme, obviously, where they're saying all college unilaterally. And obviously, that wouldn't
Right.
make sense. You're not going to just you blanketly just make every college in America free. Um, but it's definitely an interesting, proposition at the end of the day in terms of free college. And we're gonna dive into that a little bit more. And the college thing, I know they're introducing more programs, potentially raising the Pell Grant, and then the student debt situation is very in the air, whether or not Biden really meant it, but we'll see. It's a very interesting situation, but I do think there is a realization as of right now, anyway, that students are getting more and more, are this younger generation is getting more and more off put in terms of like going to college. People rather be content creators, for example, at the end of the day. And it's been shown considering college enrollment has decreased. And with the appeal to other professions that are saying, especially on the internet, saying, "Hey man, you don't go to college, but you can do this, this, and that, and you make some bread." So that's definitely enticing with this younger generation. So very interesting. To start off, I think this is going to be appropriate in terms of like both me and you. Tell them why, or like tell them about your like why you went to college, and or how your college experience went for you personally.
So, okay, I'll answer both questions. So, I went to college simply because like there wasn't really like an option. Like not that like anybody put a gun to my head, but it was like, all right, time to go to college. Like I applied to colleges after, I was finishing up high school, got into a college. I was like, all right, let's go. Didn't really think about not going to college. And, I was in a position where fortunately I could afford to go to college. Um, when I got there and they were doing the orientations, I was like, I should figure out what I'm going to do for a major because I'm very much of the opinion if you're going to go to college, figure it out. Figure it out. Don't go for 2 years and not have a major. Like, don't waste your time. Like, I know you're only whatever, 18, 19, 20, whatever. You only have so much time on this planet Earth. Like, don't waste it. Don't waste 4 years of your life doing general stuff, nothing, getting a little bit here, a little bit there. Especially don't waste your money doing that.
Yeah.
So I quickly figured out at my school if I did certain majors, I could finish undergraduate early and get an early start. I could finish my undergrad in 3 instead of 4 years, and I could start law school a year early. So I did that, and my major was politics, philosophy, and economics. That's one major, not three. And that was really good because already with liberal arts, you get a mix of things in your education as
Very
opposed to
true.
business school. So, coupled with my major, I got a mix of stuff because I got an economical understanding of things, I got a philosophical understanding of things. So, I studied like the philosophy of taxes, Chinese philosophy, existentialism. Like existentialism, like I am always using. I might not be able to remember every single thing I read or learned, but I'm constantly using that. And then the government and politics side to things, which I don't really use every day, but it definitely helps me keep an educated opinion about things.
Right.
And that is pretty much my experience with my experience with my undergraduate studies.
Okay. And now, obviously, you're currently in law school doing all that stuff right now.
Yes, I graduated this May.
Oh, so you're finished with law school?
Yes, sir. I'm currently waiting to hear back from the bar to get my bar exam results back.
Okay. Hey, man, it's making moves. Man's making moves.
Thank you.
Um, no problem. And honestly, we have, very similar ways in terms of how we approach college. And I think a lot of lawyers probably, or people who plan to go do the law route, have similar ways until you diverge, of course. So yeah, very similar to him. Barring there's an extra route considering I did the military stuff. But I went to college, of course. I also went to a liberal arts college as well, and did quickly figured out the major. I think the pretty standard one. I think it's pretty obvious, and I think they did a statistic. Most people go to law school have like a political science major, so I had a political science major.
Right.
Philosophy, political science double major was
Oh,
the
nice.
thing. So I did that. Did learned a lot, of course. Also took an existentialism class as well. The professor was a very interesting individual,
Yeah, they
for
usually
sure.
are.
Yeah, for sure. So did that. Had everything planned to go to law school and all that stuff, of course. And it was gonna be, go to the law route. Now things change. We're not going to like what those specifics are. Things change. I ended up having to transfer to a different school. I finished my education. Decided I wasn't going to do the law route because I didn't want to go to more school, and I created a new ambition in creating this podcast and the message behind the podcast, while also searching for other fruitful careers that I can do that's not lawyer related. So kind of diverged, but generally very similar in the sense that wanted we both had the idea of going to do a specialty, which and college was very necessary in those situations. But for you, I'm very curious. Why did you think, or why do you what why is college important? No need to make the question complicated. Why is college important to you?
I would say the number one, or I'll give you two reasons why college is important. One is to get a formal education in what you want to do, like in the market. So if you want to be an artist, right? If you want to be a graphic designer, if you literally want to make thumbnails for a living, if you want to work in animation, whatever, right? You still need to go to art school. Or even if you're not going to go to art school, go get a liberal arts degree so you can supplement your art skills with, communication skills. So you can write like a professional, so you can learn other stuff and like not just be a good artist, but be a good artist in the marketplace. Because that's what I see a lot of very talented people, but they don't know how to conduct themselves in the marketplace. Like I'll see people on Twitter, like they have great, great art, but they're like, oh man, I can't get commissions. And like just me with my experience, I'm like, well, did you do any for free? And they're like, huh? I go, do you have a portfolio? And I go, huh? I go, my guy, like these are basic things that anyone has to do in business. You need a portfolio so people can look at your stuff and decide whether they actually want to hire you. And you need to do stuff for free so that you can get like your resume going, right? And that's just basic stuff you would learn in college. And yeah, so I actually just nailed both of them. It's go learn what you want to do, get the formal education for that, and then even if you're not going to go get the formal education for your specific thing, just go so that you can have skills in the marketplace. The big thing being, it from my perspective, is just how to communicate, like express your ideas and then communicate professionally with other people.
Very, very good point. And I think this falls into line into another question. I actually spoke with some people yesterday about the situation. I was playing a little devil's advocate, but I was listening to a debate on YouTube a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, and they were talking about college and the value of college, of course. And one person brought up a point that's very interesting. And I'm currently like, yeah, I'm in like wavering, like what my specific opinion about the statement was. And he basically indicated that when it comes down to it, sure, there's people like me and you where we go to college, immediately figure out what we want to do, or we knew what we wanted to do before we even entered college. But his point in this was that you should go to college anyway, even though you don't know what you want to do, so you can figure out, or at the very least, have an opportunity to, at the very least, lead a fruitful career in general, build a family, all that stuff without there's always that expectation, hey, I'm gonna do something crazy, be some specialty like a lawyer, doctor, CEO, or whatever. But just going to college anyway gives you a huge advantage for someone against not going to college. So that investment of the student debt is very much worth it, even though you don't know what you want to do. You should go anyway. So what do you think about that opinion for people who have no direction but should go to college anyway?
Generally, I agree, like, again, for all the reasons I stated, but the big asterisk is how much money do you have to spend? Like, if you have no money to spend and you're going to go, sell your soul so that you can go through college and you don't even know what you want to do, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that when it's not even a guarantee? There are people who go through college and then they finish college and they're like, all right, I guess I'll go do this. Like they have no career. They had their major, they were in a club or whatever, and they just mess around when they finish college. So it's like if you don't even know what you want to do, why put yourself in debt?
So to kind of play the devil's advocate point for that particular statement. So in the situation for this individual who has no direction, of course, and they went to college and did screw all. Would you say, or would you recommend that there's the opportunity for them to just be better than they are now is worth it, or would you say, just do whatever at the end of the day and just figure it out without the college degree?
Again, my answer is going to be if you have the money to do that, then do it. Like if you are in a position where you can go, you know what, I can go through college comfortably, so let me go in and try a bunch of different things and see what I like. If that is a viable option for you, do it. Go for it. But if you don't have the kind of money to waste around, don't waste your money and don't waste 4 years on something that you don't even know if you're going to figure out if you're going to find what's for you. Personally,
Mm.
what I would recommend if you're in that situation is take that money that you would have spent on college and like just live life. And I know that sounds cliche, but literally just like go travel, like go to different states, get different jobs. Like just instead of messing around and putting yourself in debt, mess around and like spend your money at your own pace. Like go do apprenticeships, go do internships, like, whatever. The stuff that you could do on your own time and not on whatever college's time and college's dime.
Mm. I definitely understand the point you're making, and for the most part, I do agree with the sentiment. But what made this statement so interesting from this individual, his name Destiny, by the way, on YouTube. Have you heard of Destiny on YouTube?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so he's a YouTube commentator, a social comment. He does social commentary, and he has a very interesting perspectives on a lot of things. Um, but when he the general idea is for the people in this situation to take the risk that the debt is worth it. And obviously, I decided to kind of verify, is it really worth it? Overall, I think we both can agree that obviously if you have the funds and means, definitely go to college. Like there's no question for those people to definitely go to college. You have the means, go to college. I guess before I dive deeper into that point, the military is another kind of interesting tangent, right? The people join the military as well because they have no direction and they're like, okay, I'm guaranteed a career, just gotta listen and do the task given to me. There's obviously no need for a loan investment. Your investment is your time, your energy, all the extensive amount of work you're going to get. You at bare minimum, if you do active duty, you're doing 4 years of active duty, doing all that training, waking up at 4, going to sleep at 8 or 11 or 1 a.m. in the morning. A lot of extraneous work, but you get benefits being in the military. Obviously, you can live on the barracks. You don't have to pay for that. You don't have to pay for food. You can go to the get some lunch to the, I forget what it's called, but you can, the military kind of covers you. They just need your kind of body to do what they want you to do. So it's a very different approach in terms of an individual not knowing what they want to do. So in your opinion, for a person such as the example we've been talking about, would you say they should join the military instead of thinking about going to college?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a person that's opposed to the military for whatever reason, then obviously don't
Yeah.
force yourself to do it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you got the GI Bill, that's a big plus. And then the so the upside to college, right, is you could go through 4 years of college and not have any meaningful skills. Like you could pass your classes, but then finish college and like it's all gone, right? Or like maybe you learned everything, but like you just whatever education you got, it's basically useless. Okay, so there's that. When you go into the military, and feel free to tell me I'm wrong, you are in the better position. You are at least going to have a few, and that's being very conservative. You are going to have at least a few meaningful skills in the marketplace. You are going to have teamwork and team building skills. You are going to have discipline, so you can tell an employer, look, I'm self disciplined. So if you give me a goal, I know how to manage myself and how to get things done and how to stay on time. And a myriad of other skills that I can imagine depending on like what your area of the military was. Like maybe if you were in really good shape or you had really good training, whatever, you can go be a fitness trainer or something like that. Again, a myriad of skills that are guaranteed in the military as opposed to just going into college aimlessly.
Yeah, yeah, definitely true for the most part. Definitely certain positions that it's unfortunate for people. For example, like they join the infantry and all they really know is how to shoot and kill people. It doesn't really translate the best unless they want to become a cop. But a lot of these people end up pretty unstable, so not even that is really an option, which is, something that the military would do. Like, you're sacrificing your body and your mind for a life, a career, to do something fruitful. Whereas college, you have freedom, you have complete autonomy, but you're sacrificing your money. If you have, especially if you go into debt, you're sacrificing money. You're also sacrificing time, but again, you have complete autonomy. Whereas in the military, you're under strict rules, and if you leave, you'll get punished. Like, you can't leave, you got to finish it. A very interesting dichotomy, and it definitely depends on the type of person at the end of the day. The only thing, if you really think of a person who has no ambition and doesn't really want to do anything, like they don't want to do college, and they go to the military, and then they go to the military, they have to finish it. They can't go like, okay, I don't want to do that. Nope, you're gonna do it. You're gonna finish it, and you really have no choice, which can be, a very depressing experience, of course. But it's interesting to think about, and it really depends on the type of person at the end of the day on what you want to do. But to go back to my prior point for the individual and that doesn't have the means, but wants to make the investment, for example. So for an individual and generally in America, and a lot of these statistics are based from like 2018 to 2022, so within the last 4-year period. So for the most part, they kind of did a study about like people who go to college versus, just a high school graduate, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that they kind of measured is that when it comes down to the people who are employed, in terms of general employment, people who have a bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year program, are generally employed 83% of the time, versus high school diploma holders, the ones that don't go to college, are 68.8% of the time. They go into the statistics a little bit more. They talk about how 39.3% of those who do not have a high school diploma, so they didn't even finish high school, were not working, and about 3.5% of them were unemployed. The next level, if they did have a high school diploma, it was 28.3% of those people are not in the workforce. 3% of them are unemployed. And then in bachelor's degree, only 1.8% of the bachelor degree holders were unemployed, and 15.3% were not in the labor force. So obviously you can see the difference in terms of percentages from this general statistic for the different levels. So after hearing those statistics, I'm just presenting them for you. Does that change your mind at all for the people who, for the example that we were talking about?
Not really. I mean, I already thought like if you get a college degree, then obviously that helps your chances of getting a job. I think the issue becomes like again that those statistics ignore like how you are doing financially. It ignores your mental health, and it ignores like the long term. Like one thing about that study is like maybe they were employed like immediately out of college or immediately out of high school, but how long did they stay at that job? How many jobs did they get like in a row? Like how many times did they quit, get a job, quit, get a job? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean, but at the end of the day, in terms of like general positioning for one individual, if you generally decide to get a bachelor's degree or and go to college, the potential for you to learn the skills is there because you never really know. And then getting the bachelor's degree already automatically puts you in a position of favor compared to someone who's not deployed based on like recruiters and stuff. Obviously, it depends on the positions themselves. And if people look hard enough and they don't go to college, they can find very lucrative positions. For example, like a UPS driver can make 6 figures. You just nobody talks about being a UPS driver. Like a plumber, well, I guess you may need like some technical skill, but different positions that are more laborious, but people don't think about those jobs. So if they take the time to think about those jobs, sure. But in terms of general positioning, my thing is like for the general person, the potential of them at least doing something with their lives is generally just higher if they go to a 4-year program and go to college. Now, obviously, is the loan stuff. If they don't do anything, they're in the worst situation. So it's like big risk investment, obviously, but you don't think it's worth it for that person who doesn't have the means?
It's definitely worth it, but again, like the thing I keep harping on is like, do you really want to put yourself in debt? Like, I know professors in college who like we're still paying off their debt. It's like, do you really want that on you? Like, whatever, 10 years down the line.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they are professors, and then compared to being like working at McDonald's the entire life, it's all perspective based. And if I'm in that
Mm-hmm.
situation, I'll complain too, obviously, because I did this, even though I'm making more money than like a person who works at fast food. I'm still in a very not in the most ideal position at the end of the day. It,
Right.
it it's interesting, and one thing we can go into is for the people who decide to already go to school and specialize. We've talked about already. Become a doctor, become a lawyer, for example. So when it comes down to those people who go to college already knowing what they want, in terms of depiction, like if you're depicting something to a person and you're talking to someone about college, what do you think a college has more value to the people who already know their specialization and they're going to college for that, or do you think it has more value for the people who have the means but want are looking for a career?
I mean, it's a better use of your time if you already know what you want to do. Um, the thing with, you know, if you don't, like, if you have the means but you don't know what you want to do, that's fine. You're in a position where, you can go to college and you're not necessarily stressing over it. But it comes down to, like, is it really a guarantee that you're going to figure out what you want to do? Because you'll figure out a major, but are you going to figure out what you want to do with your life in college? If you already know that, whatever, you want to be an author, you want to be a professor, you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, whatever, school is the perfect place for you. That's where you should be. You need to go get that formal education. But if you don't know what you want to do with your life, not what I want to major in school for 4 years, what I want to do with my life, not even a money thing. Like, is being in school the best use of your time? And that's my issue there.
Interesting. So one thing I've spoke numerous of times on my issue with the American public education system. So I already think it's very inefficient how they do things. And it's been stated multiple times that the way the schooling system is as of right now is more trying to make workers versus make leaders. I think that's kind of been echoed so many times as of right now. But I think it's been talked about plenty also in terms of school, right? Like, obviously, in terms of education, it's right there. You know what you're about to do. You're about to get a proper education for something in particular, for something specific. But there's the argument that you can get education, well, with the internet and like libraries. You can get education whenever. You can learn these skills whenever. Take the aspect of requirements, right? Like you're required to do this to go to a lawyer, be a lawyer, or you're required to do this to become a doctor. Take that out of the way. In terms of education, for those people who are driven and already know their specialties, those people can acquire that education whenever. They can go on the internet. Someone was making this argument when I was talking to them yesterday. They can require this information whenever. They can go on the internet, find a YouTube video. They can go through different archives. They can go to the library, find all this information. They can learn everything they can learn from school from the internet, from books, all that stuff. Whereas the other individual that we're speaking about, the person that doesn't necessarily know what they want, they will still be provided education, of course, but another aspect of school is the social interactions, knowing how to be socially inept, knowing how to do things, the technical skills that we're talking about in terms of being on time. I think certain colleges do it better than others. Personally, my college was definitely one of them, being like a smaller liberal arts school. But some of the skills, being on time, public speaking, speaking in front of people, networking, finding potential connections, learning how to build a portfolio, for example, how people think about those different things. So, in the sense of that, in terms of those other, like, barring education, how much do you think the value of those technical skills, those social interactions, how much do you think the value of those things, or what do you think are the value of those things from going to college specifically?
So when you say technical skills, you're talking about the stuff that, like, somebody doesn't know what they want to do, but, like, portfolios, public speaking and all that.
Yeah, some of those, like, abstract skills for sure.
The thing about that, right? And I know I keep saying this, but it's really what it comes down to is if you don't even know what you want to do, like, let's assume you go through 4 years of college. Yeah, you have your major. It's like whatever, communications or marketing. If you don't know what you want to do with your life 4 years out of college, yeah, you know how to communicate, you know how to build a portfolio, you'll know how to network, all that stuff. Those are all essential skills, but you still don't know what you want to do. Like, you don't know what you're going to do with those skills. So again, it really comes down to, like, is it worth putting yourself in debt to get those skills when you don't have a goal or a plan for what you're going to do with them, versus if you spend those 4 years just, like, whatever, not screwing around, like playing Call of Duty and, watching Netflix for 4 years, but screwing around, like going to get internships, this and that, you'll still get those skills, maybe a little bit slower, but you'll still get those skills, and you will be a little more targeted with what you're figuring out, what you're going to do, and you'll have less of the distraction of school. Like, oh, I need to get this paper in. Oh, I need to show up to class at 8 in the morning. Like, again, I know I keep saying it, but it really comes down to, like, I don't know if that's the best use of your time if you don't have a plan.
So in general, it's really hard to say because obviously it's dependent on the person. But if we're talking about a general individual and they finish college not knowing what they wanted to do, when it comes down to it, those skills, knowing how to properly network, and obviously I'm talking about the person that goes to college and actually does college, not some party boy who doesn't clearly.
Right.
He's just wasting his life. Those people, they're gonna waste their life anyway. So you can't really save those people. But for the person who goes to college, finishes their 4th degree, and still doesn't know their occupation, but took advantage of the resources that college had to offer them, I do think those skills that they were given, that, for example, learning to network, learning how to build a portfolio, learning how to speak in front of people, learning how to communicate properly, not only in person, but via email, via social media. Those skills, I do think that the moment you enter the workforce, even though you may not know what you want to do, the opportunities you have is magnified tremendously. I mean, recruiters look at that, of course, like, a lot nowadays in terms of these like skills that you can learn. Now, obviously, you can learn these without going to college, of course, but I don't think everyone are able to learn these by themselves. I think that a small minority are able to do that, who have that driven ambition to be great even without college. But I think that's a minority statistic personally. In general, as long as you know that you need a career, most people know that they need a career, so they go to college to learn about that. It's hard to find the one career that I know I'm definitely going to do, but at the very least, you're going to learn certain skills. So I do think those skills have tremendous value, especially nowadays, and will put you a step above just people in general that don't have those skills or didn't learn those skills from college. Do you disagree?
No, I absolutely agree. I think all of those skills that you will, not you might, you will get in college are valuable. Like you need to be able to communicate, even if like you're a bartender, right?
All
If you
right.
want to be a bartender that stands out, you need to be able to effectively communicate with, people at the restaurant. You need to be able to effectively network. And if you want to be like a whatever, an influencer or a someone that really stands out in the network of bartenders, you need to be able to write articles, you know, publish opinions, stuff like that. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to write professionally. So in any profession, like it's called a liberal arts degree for a reason. Like it's flexible. It's going to work wherever you want to go.
The next thing I want to go into in terms of like whether or not you should go to college is kind of some of the potential solutions for people nowadays. You provided one solution or one, solution for your own personal opinion in terms of specialties in regards to these people should be able to go to school potentially for free. Um, Very interested in that. I know you talked about it a little bit, but can you elaborate on that a little bit more? I actually never heard that opinion before.
So my thing was if I'm a politician, right? And I know like I just need whatever, like a certain amount of votes more. If I'm trying to get those people on the border, I'm gonna be a salesperson. I'm gonna be like, look, we're not just giving this to anybody, right? I know that you're looking at this like an investment. You don't want your tax money being wasted. So we're not just going to give it to anybody. We are only going to make school free for certain schools where it is a skill or focus based school. So medical schools, engineering schools, trade schools, stuff like that, versus necessarily like liberal arts schools. Now, then you get into the thing of like, well, plenty of people go to liberal arts schools and they get medical degrees and engineering degrees. So there is that nuance there. But generally, that's the idea of like, if we're going to give free school to people, make it a bit more of a better investment
Mm.
or a more secure investment, I should say.
That's definitely a different statement, and I actually very much agree in terms of security, obviously, because you're not going to a specialty without actually like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Obviously, in terms of the percentage of people who graduate and actually do it well is I'm sure smaller because this is a specialty skill. Not everybody can do it, of course. But that's definitely a very interesting approach for the people who are able to uh, kind of succeed in that. What do you think about the gay kind of counterpoint? And I just thought of this off the top of my head is that these people who are going into these specialties are already going to make way more money. Why do they deserve free school? What would you say in combat to that?
I mean, yeah, they're going to make more money, but they're also going to contribute to the marketplace, and that contributes to everybody. Like yeah, it sucks. Somebody's going to make more money than you, but like we're going to have more skilled workers and more skilled tradespersons. Like I really don't know how to explain that.
Fair enough. I do think that that's very interesting. Um, to kind of go to a different level, we went from all the way on the top with like the specialty schools, graduate schools, obviously. From the bottom level, community college. Do you think community college should be free all the way? Like this is one of the unilateral things. Should be free all the way around across the United States.
Well, this is an area I'm not too knowledged on myself, so see if you can't help me understand a bit better. So my understanding is community college is usually free, but it's usually only 2 years, I believe. Is that true?
Yeah, community college 2 years. There are definitely there are plenty of free community colleges, depending on your situation, but a good number of them are definitely not free. Like you pay for courses. The way you pay is a little bit different from like a normal 4 year college, of course. But a lot of the times when you go to community college, you do your gen eds there, and then decide, hey, I want to go to college for real, and go to college to do your major courses and all that stuff. So it's a good program. There's certain programs that make it free, but it's not free all the way around across the United States. But it definitely puts you in a huge benefit if you want to do a 4 year degree. Starting community college first put you at like you're saving a lot of money, you're finishing sooner, all that stuff.
Right. So I'll just be pro because it's a nuanced question, but I'll just be pro. I don't see why not. I mean, you get in those 2 years, you're going to get the professional skills that you would get from a 4 year degree, like from a whatever bigger college. And the other thing too, right, is college at this point, like in this day and age, is basically like the next step from high school. Like it used to be you could go to high school and like that was it. That's all you needed. Now it is pretty much essential that you go to college for certain basic essential skills in the marketplace. So it's almost like community college should be the next required step from high school or college in general. So like paying for that, like taxes going to that so people can go for free, like when it's pretty close to high school already, like I don't see why not. And the other thing too is if we're paying for if it's free, then you can go to community college so you have a better chance of whatever going to the next school. Again, I really don't see why not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in general, I agree. And one thing that is very apparent, like for me, I don't know about you when you were in high school. For me, when I was in high school, community college has a negative connotation. 100% has a negative connotation. And it just, it makes you think that, hey, if you go to community college, you're a lesser individual. Like you're stupid. So there's a negative connotation in terms of going to community college. Why it's like that, I'm not really sure. But there's definitely a negative connotation. So there should ultimately be a more of an appreciation for going to community college, because obviously you can save a lot of money. Sure, you won't go to college immediately with that one friend that you may not even like when you go to college, but it's definitely should be emphasized more. Kind of like a tangent, kind of like a what's the word? A derivative of that idea is, what do you think about the idea? Because we're just proposing some solutions for college education. What do you think about the idea that going to college, the first year of college will be free to let you experience, and if you continue, then obviously you would have to pay the normal amount for your college degree. But the first year is an experimental year that everyone will be allowed in general. What do you think about that idea?
I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. To play devil's advocate, the
All right.
whole point of paying for college so that people can go for free is so that they can have the guarantee of a college education. Like, tax money isn't spent on public schools so that you can go to public school if you feel like it. Like, you are supposed to go to public school. Public school is guaranteed to you, considering like whatever, you're not beating kids up and you're not starting fights with teachers and drinking, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
So if you only have that guarantee of the first year, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Okay. All right. Interesting. It's a very interesting idea. My thing with it, kind of something that's kind of conjured in my mind is, I think from the things that we've talked about, I think we're pretty clear that people who know what they want definitely should go to college. They're gonna go specialty. They're gonna be very essential for society in America in general. I think we pretty much agree on that. For the people who have the means, it's a good opportunity. I guess it really comes down to the person who does not have the means, but should we make the opportunity easier for those people? So they shouldn't at the very least, not the people who like go just bad students, bad people. Yeah, we don't care about those people. But the people who at the very least need the opportunity. If they have the opportunity, they might be able to do something fruitful. So I guess the question is, I think the most important question is, should the government, because they're the ones that can do anything, should the government do something, anything, to make sure that college is more or more accessible for those particular people who may not have an idea, do want a career, but do not have the means to pay for college?
I guess just invest in public schools because that's really what it comes down to. Like, if you want to get into a good school, like, you need to use your time wisely in public school. And, if you go to a nice school, odds are you're going to get into a nice college. But the thing for a lot of kids is they grow up in cities, towns, whatever, where they are underprivileged. And, depending on what your background is, like, you might have a lot of societal pressure. Like, you might be a minority, you might be whatever, right? And like, you're just in this environment of like, why should I even bother? Like, I am part of this group. I am from this city. I am from this part of the country, whatever. Like, I've seen the statistics, like, whatever, everyone in my family, like, they're all a bunch of losers. Like, why should I bother? Like, when I see everyone like me on the news, either whatever, like, just being portrayed in certain ways, it's like, why should I bother? And the government, in that sense, like, that should be their priority of like just creating healthier environments across the country.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Considering a lot of these people, like you said, are getting more and more comfortable not being great, so to speak. Um, Another way to kind of really look at college that is also very interesting is very relevant to this new wave of like careers, so to speak. Becoming a content creator, for example, being a YouTuber, being a TikToker, being a podcaster, et cetera, et cetera. You even said it. People who wanted to do graphic art on social media, you know, and they see all these content creators say, yo, I did all this, this, and that, and became great. You even see people who are saying, hey, do you want to be great? Join my program, blah, 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 blah. So if you kind of the last thing, or last major question, I would say, we talked extensively about college and the different type of people who should go to college. But now we're going to talk about to this generation of people who are comparing college to, for example, like content creators and individuals who became successful on their own without schooling. What would you say to a person who came up to you and they're like, I'd rather be a content creator than go to college? Would you reinforce their wants and say, okay, go for it? Or are you going to say, you might need a college education at the very least, just in case this doesn't work out?
That would have to depend on the person,
True.
but
And I just thought of this before you go in. To even
mhm,
add on to that is like the content creators are very similar to like professional athletes. Like they self-made millionaires, sure, did everything, do have a job that all of these kids want, right? The difference between professional athletes, well, for the most part, is they go to college still. Now some NCAA stuff may change things where certain like basketball players can go straight to the NBA, but the ones that don't will still go to college or join the G League, for example. So they still have a route. Content creation is completely different from that too. So just add another kind of layer to it.
I guess what it really comes down to is, what lifestyle do you want to live right now? Because there are a lot of people who get these kinds of jobs. Like, let's say you're starting out as a YouTuber, right, or whatever. Excuse me. It takes a lot of time. So there's going to be those dark years where you don't get anything back from it. So in that time, like let's say you are making that as close to your full-time thing as possible. You still got to pay bills. Like you still got to, keep your lights on, you still got to buy groceries, all that stuff. So either you make that your full-time thing and whatever, you get a waitressing job, you get a bartending job, you drive trucks, right? If you're comfortable with that lifestyle, then yeah, go for it. But if you're used to a certain lifestyle where, you have a nice apartment, you have a nice car, you whatever, right? Then you're not going to be able to do that while you try and build up your YouTube channel or, whatever. So it really comes down to like what lifestyle do you want?
What about the people who don't know, right? The people who are definitely not comfortable being a part timer or like a waitress, fast food, retail, but want I think think they really want to do it, but still want like a relatively successful career just in case. What do you say to those people?
If you are not 100% in on like YouTube or Twitch, right? Then you should not be making it your full-time thing. That just doesn't make sense because again, it just comes down to like you got to pay bills. So if you got bills to pay or you're living with mom and dad and you're not figuring out how you can go get an apartment, like if you're making YouTube your thing, then that's great. But if you don't even know, like it, it's not the best use of your time.
Mm. I definitely like that realistic notion and to kind of play into that because it's really tough to do content creation at the end of the day, and it's a huge like it out of the military, out of college, it has the most risk investment because if it doesn't pan out, then you're just at some dead end job for the rest of your life. So
Right.
the thing about it too is that even if you are ready to do this kind of sorry to say mediocre job that is pretty just like doing some same activity every day, doesn't really have any growth potential for the most part unless you want to be the manager of the fast food restaurant. If you want to do something like that, you're like, okay, I'm ready and I'm taking a gamble. You also have to realize that even though you do that, that does not necessarily mean you will succeed regardless. You can put in so much effort. A lot of people do not know what they're doing. Like unless you were like Mr. Beast, where he went into the nitty gritty details, where people like that do exist. And obviously you got some examples of like entertaining content creators where you can visually see that you are going to be successful. Keep on doing it. But those are like I've said prior, the exceptions. They are not the rule. They are a very, 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 very small percentage of people who can pull that stuff off. So for the most part, I definitely agree in terms of telling these people is like, hey, you can still do it, but you need to realize the truths of how things may pan out. So I think that's a reality a lot of these kids should know and realize today. Because more and more of them are going to want to become content creators. You know, they can literally pick up their phone and start becoming a TikToker.
Right. And again, I said it before, I'll say it again. Even if you know that's what you want to do, you should still, even if you're not going to go to college, supplement that with general essential skills. Like the biggest thing I'll say with YouTubers, right, is like they don't know how to script videos. Like they dead ass. I'm like
Also
I
true, yes.
like I'll read what they have just brainstorming or I'll watch their video and I'll be like, you literally don't know how to organize ideas. Like they are an interesting person, whatever, but I'm watching their video. I'm like, you didn't even say anything. This is a 10-minute video and you didn't say anything. And like that's something where college helps, right? Like you learn how to write papers and how to effectively organize your thoughts. Whereas someone who, might be a really good video editor, they can make a really cool looking video, but if they're like a commentary channel or an analysis channel, they don't know how to say anything. Like they just know how to talk.
That is 100% true. That is an amazing point because even if you want to do content creation, like he's talked about, there is so many skills that you're going to have to learn by yourself if you decide not to go to college. Some people do not have the work ethic or do not have the capability to even understand a lot of this stuff by themselves, which is where education comes in handy. Like you got editing, video editing, audio editing, speaking skills in terms of commentary channels, understanding music, obviously, in a lot of these situations, understanding, technical stuff when it comes to setting up software, and, working a camera and working a microphone. When it comes to the business aspect, marketing, social media marketing, brand, like, the amount of stuff, the layers when it comes to content creation is ginormous. I think people think you could just turn on a camera and just start doing stuff and it'll be all right. But it's, a lot of that is not that simple. Some people make it work. Again, the exceptions, not the rule. That's a great point. So I think for the most part, I think we covered a lot of the, answers to the question of should you go to college. If you had to say like something very concise, on your last point in terms of this question, what would that be?
I would say if you know what you want to do with your life, great. Go for it and get that formal education, get essential skills for the marketplace. If you don't know what you want to do with your life, then spend like the next year or two just messing around. Go travel the country, go try different jobs, just figure out who you are as a person, and what you want to do with your life will come naturally.
Hey, great advice, great advice. That's the answer to the big question, and I co-sign a lot of that, of course. And people need to realize, obviously America, one of the big aspects is the American dream. But at the end of the day, there needs to be some type of realism in how you're approaching your career. And college is going to be helpful to those specialties that we discussed, to being someone important like a CEO, to be some high value like software developer, stuff like that. Education is going to be very important, very needed. But there's a lot of other occupation. There's a lot of other avenues to gain education. Community college, for example, learning courses online, for example. There's a lot of information that you can learn by yourself. And obviously, firsthand world experience that OG was talking about in learning how life works, learning how the workforce works on your own can also be very valuable that can supplement going to college in general. Obviously, the military is an option too. I'm saying, like, if you don't want to just be listening to orders the rest of your life, then you maybe not want to join the military. But it does have its benefits. Let's keep it a buck. So I think we answered a lot of things. Hope everybody that is listening to the podcast got something out of it, of course. And if you are listening, make sure you guys rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and like it on YouTube, and check out OG's content. All his information is on the website and in the description. Any final words before we wrap things up?
I will supplement my previous answer with whatever you do. Also, like, even if you go to college, there are still skills that you won't get in college. Like, go learn how to work on your car. That is a basic thing. You need to be able to take care of your car. Go learn how to take care of yourself, right? Like, everyone needs to be healthy. Learn how to, like, just do basic business stuff. And then also learn your legal rights. No matter what country you're in, you need to be able to know what your legal rights are in any given situation.
Great point. And I almost forgot, of course, OG, that situation, to revisit the question, do you have a situation where you had a debate, discussion, conversation with someone that you vehemently disagreed with in terms of all their points? Can you remember that situation, and how did it go?
So, I can't remember the last time I, like, really, really, really disagreed with somebody, but the one example that I always tell people is this. Excuse me. So, I was in college, and I forget how this came up, but somebody said, Jeff Bezos is the worst. He is literally Hitler. And I said, really? Because I'm one of those people that, certain people are bad, but once we start calling everybody Hitler, then it's like the standard is pretty low. So just because I was kind of annoyed by it, and I'm not pro Jeff Bezos, I'm not anti Jeff Bezos. I was just messing with this kid. I was like, he's literally the devil, and he goes, yeah. I go, why? Blah 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 blah. It's just so stupid. He's a corrupt capitalist, and I go, okay, so why do you pay his light bills then? And he goes, huh? I go, where'd you get the book for class, right? Because we were waiting for class. I go, where'd you get the book for class? He goes, Amazon. I go, of course he did. Why don't you go to Barnes and Noble? He goes, oh, well, I had to. I go, you had to? I go, did Jeff Bezos put a gun to your head? He goes, no, but it's cheaper and you get it faster. I go, really? It's cheaper. Okay, let's do a test. I'm going to go on Barnes and Noble. You go on Amazon. Let's see how much it was. Blah, blah, blah. We both Google it. It was $3. It was like whatever, like a $12 book. It was $3 cheaper at Barnes and Noble. So I just looked at him and I was like, so again, I'm going to ask you, if Jeff Bezos is literally Hitler, why are you keeping his lights on? And he didn't have anything to say to that.
Hey, that was a very amazing interaction. That's one of those mic drop moments.
Again, I am not pro or anti Jeff Bezos. I just get really skeptical when we just call everybody Hitler, because Hitler was a pretty evil dude.
Yeah, I'm very much with you. A lot of these situations, I play devil's advocate because I do think people make a lot of logical mistakes for no reason, and they're overly just being like that example. That dude, for some reason, has some emotional hatred for Bezos. Don't know why. I bet he didn't even know why, or she didn't even know why.
Mm-hmm.
And then you call them out on blah 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 blah, and they didn't really have an answer. If you had to revisit that situation with this individual, would you change your approach or?
Absolutely not. I would not change a thing. The feeling of satisfaction of just sitting there, like if you've ever played FIFA or Call of Duty and just like sat there and been like, scoreboard. That was basically the feeling of satisfaction I had of like, I didn't even need to look, bro. The answer is right there.
I'm 100% with you. I got that competitive nature, and when people are really being dumb, it's so satisfying. One thing that I definitely I've preached this to a few people. This is also a bar by Destiny. Hey, I'm just saying, I'm gonna preach on every video and podcast episode until it happens that I need Destiny on my podcast so we can have a conversation because I like having good conversation with smart people, and definitely when I see his, and the thing is, like, he's like liberal, he's on the left, he has a completely different viewpoint, but I think what I always appreciate is people are using logic and not just overly emotional. I never appreciate that stuff. But one thing that he said that I do agree with and never really, don't always kind of consider this, that a lot of people, with few exceptions, like Jeffrey Dahmer, for example. Jesus, Jeffrey Dahmer. A lot of people, most people, even though they have like a negative opinion, a lot of this comes from a place of thinking that they're the good guy, thinking that they're doing something that is good for the planet and good for humanity. A lot of people, you've heard the phrase, think that they're like justice warriors, right? And they don't see what they're saying and doing as negative. So one thing that I want to make sure when I do like conversations, even with people like that, unless they're like a psychopath, i.e. Jeffrey Dahmer, also people need to stop romanticizing Jeffrey Dahmer. I know you watch a Netflix documentary, you guys need to chill out. Like, that's weird. Just saying. That's so weird. But the approach that I want to make sure that I'm doing, like, moving forward, is making sure that I really understand why they think what they're doing is good. Now, if they know it's bad, then they're just a scumbag. It can't save you, right? It can't. But why they think what they're saying is good. So I think that's a very interesting approach. If I had to say, like, if I had to go to that person, although mic dropping them, I would have mic dropped them first. Like, I would have started off with the mic drop, and then after the mic drop, I've been like, why do you even think Jeff Bezos is even close to as bad as what you're saying? You know what I'm saying?
No, I 100% agree. But my thing is, like, look.
Oh, also, I'm not saying what you did was wrong. I'm just talking about.
Yeah. just to explain my approach, right? My thing was I wasn't so focused on having the conversation about Amazon. I was more like, here's this kid sitting out in the hallway, talking like he's morally superior to everybody on planet Earth. Meanwhile, he's giving all his money to Amazon. So I was just calling him out for the hypocrisy. At the same time, I am totally aware that there are grown ass adults working at Amazon peeing in their own diapers because they're not even allowed to go to the bathroom.
But hey,
Right?
yep, 100%.
So I could totally bring that up. But for that specific conversation, I was like, bro, you got an Amazon Prime account and you're talking about how Jeff Bezos is Hitler. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you because I think the problem is that they want to be seen as morally superior, like you said. They want to be
Right.
noted as morally superior, but
Mm-hmm.
your actions need to follow up with your words. If you're gonna be like that, you need to take the appropriate actions to exemplify what you're trying to do. That's especially like if you are right about something. In his case, he definitely wasn't because he's comparing Bezos to Hitler. Stupid. But if you want to say Amazon as some very bad policies and tendencies, there's approaches to go there besides being a moral justice warrior in the middle of the hallway. So I was like, yeah, 100% agree with you for that. But very interesting conversation. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of conversations like that with a lot of different people moving forward in the future, where I get to mic drop them when they bring out that Bezos is Hitler. People need to realize there are scumbags out there. I think they equate ideologies and characteristics to essentially some of the most evil people in the world. And I think that's something of the dumbest or most evil people in history. And I think that's some of the dumbest things to do. You just don't sound smart in those situations.
Right.
All right, so yeah, that's all we got for today's episode of the podcast. Appreciate you coming on, OG, of course. It was great having you. I think this was a very great discussion. Made some great points, of course. So everybody who's listening, again, make sure you guys support the channel, support the podcast, check out his content, of course, if you like anime and manga. And y'all have a good one. Take care and peace.